Autism refers to the discrimination or prejudices against deaf or hard of hearing individuals. As we go about our daily lives, we rarely stop to think about how hard other people may have it. Deaf or other individuals with hearing impairments face many types of discrimination on a daily basis. Although we do not see it as discrimination or we genuinely do not mean any harm, most of us normal people have discriminated against a deaf individual. It is as simple as a sly comment to someone else after encountering a hard of hearing individual. We are all guilty of it, despite whether we mean to or not. A form of discrimination against a deaf individual would be being hesitant to be around them or even speak to someone who is deaf because you think something is wrong with them. There are many forms of discrimination that deaf individuals face, and there are even more serious ones. One of the most serious cases of discrimination being that employers do not hire deaf or hard of hearing individuals because of their impairments. There are many other examples of discrimination against deaf individuals, and we should make it a priority to try our best to avoid those. It is sad that many people in the deaf and hard of hearing community have to continue to experience these forms of discrimination on a daily basis. After all, deaf individuals and individuals with hearing impairments are still humans, and they deserve the equal opportunity that everyone else receives. One of the many forms of autism includes not going the extra mile or even making the effort to communicate with those who are deaf or even just hard of hearing. Yes, it can get frustrating when someone cannot hear you or when you have to repeat yourself for what feels like a million times. Sometimes we neglect to communicate with deaf people because we simply do not know how to. However, we should not let this small inconvenience keep us from communication with the deaf community. Although it may seem like a challenge, let's learn how we can avoid this type of discrimination against these individuals. There are many ways to communicate with the deaf, so do not just start to assume things. Some deaf or hard of hearing individuals can still hear sounds with the help of what's called a cochlear implant. Others who are said to be profoundly deaf can still communicate. They just take advantage of other types of communications. Some individuals with hearing impairments learn how to read lips, which is not easy for them either. By this, they can respond by speaking. Others, however, use sign language. So if you are willing to take on the challenge of learning sign language, it can be very beneficial for you as well. If sign language is too much of a task to learn, it could be easier to just communicate with them by sending them a text message so that they could read it or even writing on a piece of paper. Remember, everyone is different, so sometimes instead of not trying at all, be patient and good things can happen. As previously stated, one of the most serious cases of discrimination is assuming that deaf people cannot do certain tasks or that they are not qualified to do certain things. Deaf individuals not only have a difficult time in their own daily lives, they also face many challenges when trying to find a job for them to do on a daily basis. Some or most employers are not easily convinced that deaf individuals could be successful in the work setting. With this, when a deaf individual applies for a job, they are often faced with much discrimination by employers. Not only are workplaces refusing to hire hard of hearing individuals, when a deaf person goes to get hired somewhere, the employer often does not even equal their pay to that of the normal employees. However, during the fall of 2012, the EEOC, or Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, won a rare summary lawsuit against a Phoenix company that refused to accommodate and hire a hearing impaired applicant. Deaf individuals deserve the same opportunity that we hearing individuals receive. In most of every case, these individuals just want some sense of normality. They want to be in a place where they are treated just as everyone else is treated. Gina Shaw, author of Fighting Workplace Discrimination Against the Hearing Impaired, says that workers with hearing impairments and employers struggle daily to find solutions so that hearing impairment does not interfere with daily performance. It is said that most employers do not want to discriminate against those with hearing problems, but in cases where the deaf individual is trying to apply for a job, the discrimination can still be very subtle, even though they are just not trying to. Everyone deserves equal opportunities, no matter if they have an impairment or not. Your workplace will be better off from including people with different experiences and different communication styles. Diversity is not always a bad thing. Next are two forms of autism that some people do and are not aware of that is still discrimination. First is approaching deaf individuals as if their deafness is some sort of tragedy. Saying things like, "You're deaf? I'm so sorry," can be quite offensive to many people. We say these things because it's just not normal for us. We're kind of selfish. We like to think these things are awful because if we were in their shoes, it would be awful. However, we should not be sorry because deafness is not an illness or disease. Also, you should not exert patronizing behavior towards these individuals because they do not speak or do not speak properly. This can be very saddening to deaf individuals. Some deaf individuals solely rely on sign language and do not speak, and others do speak, but not as well. Don't patronize them because of how well or how well not they speak. Even some doctors do this without realizing it. Secondly, making comments like you you don't talk so well because for you or you talk so well for a deaf person. This can be very offensive. Deaf people they already face many challenges every day. The least we can do is to help them and feel as normal as possible. Once again, everyone deserves equal opportunities. Autism is something that everyone should be aware of. Although being deaf is not something everyone can say they have experienced, we can always show some empathy and extend kindness to these individuals. Avoiding discrimination against deaf people can be easily achieved by just thinking, what if it were me? Step into their shoes. Would you want someone to not hire you because you could not hear? Would you want to be avoided? It is sad that many people in the deaf and hard of hearing community have to continue to experience this type of discrimination on a daily basis. After all, deaf individuals and other individuals with hearing implants are still human and they deserve the equal opportunity as everyone else receives.